There are moments in life when heaven grows unusually quiet, not because God has stepped away, but because He is watching closely. Tonight is one of those moments. This message is not random. It is not casual. It is not something you stumble upon by coincidence. God is warning you. Be careful what you say tonight. A small decision could change everything. Open immediately before midnight. These words carry urgency. They carry weight. They carry a divine alert that must not be ignored. Something is hovering in the atmosphere around you. A turning point. A line in the sand. And what leaves your mouth in the next few hours has the power to align you with breakthrough or with delay. This is not about fear. It is about awareness. It is about understanding that tonight is spiritually sensitive. You may feel a strange tension inside, an unexplainable pressure, a restlessness that will not settle. That is not anxiety by accident. That is discernment knocking at your spirit. Because words are not just sounds. Words are seeds. And seeds do not ask permission before they grow. They respond to the soil they are planted in. Heaven is listening. Angels are attentive. Even the enemy studies your speech, waiting for permission to move. And tonight, especially tonight, there is a spiritual transaction tied to what you declare. A small decision, one sentence spoken in frustration, one agreement with doubt, one careless declaration could tip the scales in ways you do not immediately see. Before midnight, there is a window, a narrow divine window. And in that window, your voice matters more than you realize. Some of you were about to speak defeat over your future. Some of you were about to curse your own progress because you are tired. Others were preparing to vent anger, to declare that nothing will change, to say, "This is hopeless." But God intercepted this moment. That is why you are hearing this now. He is saying, pause. Guard your mouth. Choose your words carefully. Because tonight, the spirit realm is highly responsive. What you authorize with your speech will be activated. There are rare hours when destiny stands at the edge of decision. Tonight feels like one of those hours. You might think the change coming is big and dramatic. But God is revealing that it may come disguised as something small. A text you send. A call you make. A response you give. A reaction you release. A single sentence could redirect a relationship, a career path, an opportunity, or even your own internal confidence. It sounds simple. It sounds small. But small hinges swing big doors. And heaven is asking you to slow down before you speak. Why before midnight? Because spiritually, midnight represents transition. It is the line between what was and what will be. It is the crossing from one day into another. In Scripture, midnight has often marked divine reversals and sudden shifts. It is a time when chains break, when cries are heard, when destiny pivots. But it is also a time when careless words echo loudly. A night is not just about time on a clock. It is about a shift in seasons. And your words are either building a bridge into your next chapter or building a wall against it. You may have been feeling provoked lately. Conversations feel tense. People seem to misunderstand you. Situations feel fragile. That is not coincidence. Pressure reveals what is hidden in the heart. And under pressure, many people speak what they later regret. But God is warning you ahead of time so that regret does not become your story. He is saying, do not let temporary emotions produce permanent consequences. What you say tonight could confirm heaven's promises over your life, or contradict them. There is also something deeper. Some of you have been standing on the edge of a breakthrough you have prayed for. You have asked God for change. You have cried for restoration. You have begged for movement. And now, when the atmosphere begins to shift, the enemy attempts one final strategy: to provoke your tongue. Because if he cannot block your blessing externally, he will try to get you to cancel it internally. Through doubt, through sarcasm, through agreement with negativity. But God is exposing this tactic in advance. You are not weak. You are not powerless. In fact, your voice carries more authority than you know. That is why this warning matters. This is not about silence. It is about intention. Speak life. Speak restraint. Speak wisdom. Or if necessary, speak nothing at all. There is power in a guarded mouth. There is strength in a controlled response. And there is divine protection in obedience. Listen carefully. A small decision could change everything. And that decision may be as simple as choosing not to say what you were about to say. Choosing to respond with grace instead of anger. Choosing faith instead of fear. Choosing patience instead of impulse. Before midnight arrives, heaven is giving you a choice. And choices, even tiny ones, create pathways. You were meant to hear this now, not later. Because later might have been too late. The next few hours are sacred. Handle them carefully. Something is shifting. Something is aligning. And your words are the key. There is something happening beneath the surface that you cannot fully see yet. The tension you have felt today was not random. The conversations that almost pulled you into argument were not accidental. The sudden urge to defend yourself, to prove a point, to set the record straight, that pressure was strategic. And this is exactly why God is warning you. Be careful what you say tonight. A small decision could change everything. Open immediately before midnight. Because tonight is not just another night. It is a spiritual checkpoint. Sometimes the greatest battles are not fought with fists. They are fought with words. The enemy understands something many people forget. If he can influence your speech, he can influence your direction. Your mouth is connected to your momentum. Your confession is connected to your course. And tonight, especially tonight, the atmosphere is highly sensitive to agreement. Whatever you agree with, through your words, gains access. Have you noticed how easy it hath been to feel irritated lately? How quickly frustration rises? How conversations feel charged? That is not by chance. When breakthrough is near, opposition increases. When promotion is close, provocation appears. The pressure you are feeling is often a sign that you are stepping into something new. But the enemy hopes that before you cross that line into your next season, you will sabotage it with a single careless statement. Imagine standing at the door of a new opportunity. The door is unlocked. The path is clear. But instead of walking through, you speak doubt. You declare, "This will never work." You say, "I always mess things up." You proclaim, "Nothing good ever lasts for me." In that moment, you are not just expressing emotion. You are issuing permission. And heaven takes words seriously. The spiritual realm responds to declaration. Tonight, before midnight, there is an invitation to shift the atmosphere with your voice instead of damaging it. Instead of agreeing with fear, agree with faith. Instead of declaring failure, declare possibility. Instead of cursing the delay, bless the process. It may feel small. It may feel almost insignificant. But small decisions build spiritual trajectories. Some of you were on the verge of sending a message you would later regret. Some of you were about to confront someone in a way that would close doors instead of opening them. Others were ready to speak harshly over themselves, reinforcing old labels and past mistakes. But this is your interruption. This is your divine pause. Because God cares about what you are about to step into. There are seasons when heaven is quiet, and there are seasons when heaven leans in closely. Tonight feels like a moment when heaven is leaning in, listening, watching, not to judge you but to protect you. Because what is coming next requires alignment, and alignment begins with agreement. If your words agree with your destiny, doors open smoothly. If your words contradict it, the path becomes harder. You may be wondering why such emphasis is placed on something so simple. Because simple does not mean small in impact. A single sentence can heal or harm. A single reaction can build or break trust. A single confession can release peace or invite chaos. And sometimes the difference between elevation and delay is nothing more than disciplined speech. Right now, as you hear this, something inside you knows this message is for you. That tug in your spirit is confirmation. This is not coincidence. This is precision. And if this message resonates deeply, I encourage you to take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs this warning tonight, and subscribe if you have not already. There are others who are standing at similar crossroads, unaware that one conversation could shift everything. When you engage, you are not just supporting a channel. You are helping a message reach someone before their midnight moment arrives. Do not underestimate the power of alignment in these final hours before the day turns. You still have time. Time to reconsider. Time to reframe. Time to respond differently. The clock is moving, yes, but grace is still active. Heaven is not rushing you. It is guiding you. And here is the deeper truth. Restraint is not weakness. Silence is not defeat. Choosing not to argue is not surrender. Sometimes the strongest move you can make is to say nothing at all. Sometimes the most powerful declaration is a whisper of trust instead of a shout of frustration. Before midnight, decide who will control your voice, your emotions or your spirit. Decide whether your words will build your future or bruise it. Decide whether this small decision will open doors or close them. Because something is shifting, and what you say tonight is about to echo further than you think. There is a deeper layer to this warning that you must understand. God is not only concerned about the words you might speak to others tonight. He is deeply concerned about the words you might speak over yourself. Because long before conversations damage relationships, private declarations shape identity, and identity determines destiny. God is warning you, be careful what you say tonight. A small decision could change everything. Open immediately before midnight. This is about internal alignment as much as external restraint. Many people think sabotage happens dramatically. They imagine betrayal, opposition, or sudden collapse. But often, sabotage begins quietly, internally, with a whisper. I am not ready. I am not worthy. This is too good for me. These statements may feel harmless. They may even feel honest. But tonight, honesty must be filtered through truth. There is a difference between expressing emotion and cementing limitation. The enemy's most subtle strategy is not always to attack your opportunity. It is to attack your confidence right before you step into it. And he uses your own voice to do it. If he can get you to rehearse your past failures, he can keep you from embracing your present favor. If he can get you to declare defeat before the battle even begins, he does not have to fight you at all. You will have already surrendered. That is why this hour matters. Before midnight, your internal dialogue needs to shift. Pay attention to what you are repeating in your mind. Are you speaking hope? Or are you reinforcing fear? Are you declaring growth? Or are you reliving mistakes? Words spoken aloud carry power, but words whispered internally carry influence too. And tonight, the atmosphere is responding to both. Some of you have been on the verge of breakthrough, but exhaustion has made you vulnerable. When you are tired, you are tempted to say things like, "I give up." When you are frustrated, you are tempted to declare, "This will never change." When you are hurt, you may say, "I will never trust again." These statements feel protective. They feel like shields, but they are actually walls. And walls not only keep pain out, they keep promise out too. Heaven is not asking you to deny your feelings. It is asking you to guard your declarations. There is a sacred discipline in choosing faith-filled language even when emotions are loud, because your future is listening to what you are saying about it. Your tomorrow is being shaped by what you agree with tonight. There is also something prophetic about midnight itself. Midnight represents transition, the crossing from one day into another. It is a boundary line, and boundaries are powerful. When you cross from one season to the next, your words can either carry old baggage forward or release it at the threshold. Tonight is a threshold moment for someone listening. A chapter is quietly closing. A new one is waiting, and your speech is the bridge between them. Perhaps you were about to revisit an old argument. Perhaps you were about to reopen a wound through careless conversation. Perhaps you were about to label yourself based on past seasons that God has already redeemed. This is your warning, not to silence you but to strengthen you, because restraint tonight will create freedom tomorrow. And here is something you must hold on to. Small decisions do not feel powerful in the moment. They feel subtle. They feel almost invisible. Choosing not to respond harshly feels small. Choosing to speak blessing instead of complaint feels small. Choosing to remain silent instead of escalating feels small. But small hinges swing big doors. What feels minor tonight may redirect your entire week, your month, even your year. You may not see immediate results when you choose wisely. There may not be fireworks or dramatic signs, but in the unseen realm, alignment is happening. Protection is being secured. Favor is being preserved. And doors are remaining open that might have shut if you had spoken differently. Right now, there is a sacred pause available to you. A holy stillness before the clock shifts. Use it intentionally. Speak gratitude instead of grievance. Speak expectation instead of dread. Speak patience instead of pressure. If you must say anything tonight, let it be something that agrees with the promises you have been praying for. And listen carefully. What comes next changes everything. Because in the next part, you will understand why this specific midnight carries a timing that is more significant than you realize. There is a layer you have not yet seen. Before we continue, receive this blessing. Type "My words align with my destiny" in the comments if this resonates with you. Blessing code 314 is now activated. As you guard your words tonight, understand this. Every message shared here is a seed planted into hearts across the world. When you choose to support this mission through super thanks, membership, or a PayPal gift found in the description or through the QR code on your screen, you are not funding a channel. You are watering a harvest of souls. Scripture declares that as you sow, you shall reap. And tonight God is speaking that promise directly over you. When you move, heaven moves. When you release, heaven responds. I believe there are people waiting for this exact warning before their own midnight moment, and your act of giving becomes the oil that keeps this light burning. Do not hesitate in obedience. Step into this prophetic partnership now. Sow boldly and watch what God multiplies back into your life. There is something about timing that most people overlook. We focus on events, on conversations, on visible outcomes, but we rarely pay attention to spiritual timing. And yet, timing can be the difference between acceleration and delay. God is warning you, be careful what you say tonight. A small decision could change everything. Open immediately before midnight. This is not just about discipline. It is about divine synchronization. When heaven prepares to shift someone into a new level, there is often a narrowing window of sensitivity. In that window, distractions increase, emotions intensify, opportunities and provocations appear side by side. It becomes harder to distinguish what is harmless from what is harmful. And that is why this warning feels urgent. Because tonight, you are in one of those narrowing windows. Think about how many times in your life a single sentence altered everything. One conversation that ended a relationship. One declaration that ignited courage. One apology that restored peace. One harsh remark that created distance. Words are small in size but enormous in impact. They can redirect paths in seconds. And tonight, the margin for error is thinner than usual. You may feel like you are walking on fragile ground emotionally. Perhaps there has been tension building for days. Perhaps you have been carrying unspoken frustration. Perhaps someone has misunderstood you, or you have misunderstood them. It would be easy to react, easy to defend yourself, easy to say exactly what you feel in the heat of the moment. But ease does not always equal wisdom. There are times when silence protects more than explanation. There are moments when waiting one more hour before speaking prevents months of regret. And there are nights, like this one, when heaven is asking you to pause before crossing a verbal line you cannot uncross. The enemy understands thresholds. He studies patterns. He recognizes when you are about to step into something new. If he senses growth, he introduces conflict. If he senses favor, he stirs confusion. If he senses stability, he plants irritation. Not because he is stronger, but because he hopes you will respond impulsively. Have you noticed how sometimes the biggest mistakes happen when you are tired, late at night, emotionally drained, mentally overwhelmed? That is when filters weaken. That is when patience shortens. That is when sarcasm feels justified and sharp words feel necessary. But tonight, you are being alerted in advance. You are being strengthened before the moment of testing arrives. This warning is not restrictive, it is protective. It is not about limiting your voice. It is about preserving your future. Because sometimes destiny is not lost in grand disasters. It is bruised in subtle reactions. There is also something deeper at work. Midnight symbolizes more than a time of day. It represents spiritual transition. The closing of one chapter and the quiet opening of another. Before a new day begins, there is a brief period of darkness. And darkness can amplify emotion. Thoughts feel heavier. Doubts feel louder. Old memories surface. It becomes easier to speak from pain instead of promise. But what if tonight is not about your frustration at all? What if it is about refinement? What if this hour is shaping your discipline for the season ahead? Because the level you are stepping into requires a different maturity. It requires measured responses. It requires strength under pressure. It requires alignment between what you believe and what you declare. Imagine walking into a new season carrying the same reactive patterns from the old one. The environment may change, but the outcomes will repeat. That is why this moment matters. You are being invited to break a cycle, not through dramatic action, but through careful speech. Some of you are standing on the edge of relational breakthrough, but one defensive statement could reopen wounds that were healing. Others are near professional advancement, but one impulsive message could shift perception. Still others are in personal growth seasons, but one self-defeating confession could reinforce old limitations. This is not about walking in fear of saying the wrong thing. It is about walking in awareness of saying the right thing, or choosing not to speak at all. Awareness creates intentionality. Intentionality creates stability. Stability creates trust. And trust opens doors. Tonight, before midnight, slow your pace. Breathe before you answer. Reflect before you respond. Ask yourself, is this necessary? Is this constructive? Is this aligned with where I am going? If the answer is unclear, wait. Waiting is wisdom in disguise. You may not feel heroic for holding back a sharp reply. You may not feel powerful for choosing gentleness. But heaven measures strength differently than the world does. True strength is not found in volume. It is found in control. There is something sacred about restraint when provocation is present. It signals growth. It signals transformation. It signals that you are no longer ruled by impulse. And growth always precedes elevation. The clock is moving closer to midnight. The transition is approaching. But you are not unprepared. You have been warned. You have been strengthened. You have been reminded that small decisions are not small when they align with destiny. Let tonight be remembered not for what you almost said, but for what you wisely chose not to say. Let this be the moment you prove to yourself that you have evolved beyond reaction. Because what lies ahead requires composure. And when the new day begins, you will step into it lighter, without regret, without damage, without unnecessary consequences trailing behind you. There is a spiritual law at work that many people ignore until it is too late. What you repeatedly say, you eventually start to believe. And what you believe, you eventually begin to manifest through your choices. God is warning you, be careful what you say tonight. A small decision could change everything. Open immediately before midnight. Because tonight is not just about one conversation. It is about a pattern that is either being broken or reinforced. Think about the rhythm of your recent days. Have you been speaking more frustration than gratitude? More doubt than expectation? More criticism than encouragement? Words create atmosphere, and atmosphere influences behavior. If you surround yourself with declarations of defeat, your actions will quietly follow that tone. If you surround yourself with words of faith, your courage begins to rise to meet them. Tonight is about interrupting cycles. Some of you have been stuck in loops, saying the same negative phrases over and over. This always happens to me. I never catch a break. People always disappoint me. These statements may feel like observations, but they are invitations. When repeated, they become agreements. And agreements shape reality. You may not realize it, but your mouth can train your mind. When you speak hope consistently, your thoughts begin to align with possibility. When you speak life, your perspective begins to shift. And when your perspective shifts, your decisions improve. That is why this warning carries such urgency. A small decision tonight, choosing different words, can begin dismantling a cycle that has followed you for years. There is also a relational dimension to this moment. Words have memory. People remember how you made them feel through what you said. Even if forgiveness is extended, echoes linger. And sometimes the breakthrough you have been praying for is tied to a relationship that needs careful handling. A single careless comment can reopen wounds that were finally closing. You might be tempted to just say it and get it off your chest. You might feel justified in expressing every raw emotion. But expression without wisdom can create fractures that take months to repair. Not every thought deserves to be spoken. Not every emotion needs to be externalized. Discernment is maturity. This does not mean suppressing truth. It means delivering truth with timing and grace. Timing matters. Delivery matters. Tone matters. And tonight, tone may be more powerful than content. A gentle response can disarm tension. A measured pause can calm a heated exchange. A softened word can preserve trust. Have you ever noticed how regret often begins with the phrase, "I didn't mean it like that"? The damage is rarely intentional. It is impulsive. And impulsiveness thrives in emotionally charged moments, especially late at night, when fatigue lowers filters and vulnerability increases. That is why before midnight is emphasized. Fatigue magnifies feeling. And when feeling is magnified, discernment must be intentional. If you are tired, you are more likely to exaggerate, more likely to assume the worst, more likely to speak in absolutes like always and never. But absolutes create rigidity, and rigidity closes door. There is something powerful about choosing restraint in moments when you feel entitled to react. It signals that you value long-term peace over short-term release. It shows that you are thinking beyond the immediate satisfaction of expression and into the lasting impact of your words. Consider this. What if tonight is a test of stewardship? Not stewardship of money, not stewardship of time, but stewardship of influence. Your words influence people. They influence environments. They influence outcomes. And how you steward that influence determines what you are entrusted with next. If you are being prepared for greater responsibility, greater visibility, or greater authority, your speech must reflect that level. Leadership is not only about action, it is about communication. And maturity is proven in how you handle provocation. Some of you feel like you have been overlooked or misunderstood. You want to correct the narrative. You want to defend your position. But sometimes silence speaks louder than explanation. Sometimes consistency over time corrects what arguments cannot. Not every misunderstanding requires immediate correction. Some resolve naturally when patience is applied. Tonight, ask yourself, is what I am about to say aligned with where I am going? Does it reflect the version of me I am becoming? Or does it echo the version I am leaving behind? Growth is often invisible in the moment, but it becomes evident in restraint. A small decision could change everything. And that decision may be as simple as writing one sentence before you send it, waiting 10 minutes before responding, choosing a softer tone, or deciding that nothing needs to be said at all. Do not underestimate the ripple effect. One controlled response can shift the energy of an entire conversation. One thoughtful word can redirect a tense situation. One decision to speak life can alter the emotional climate of your home. Tonight is not about perfection. It is about awareness. It is about recognizing that words are tools, and tools can build or destroy depending on how they are used. You are being given the chance to build. When midnight comes, let it find you at peace, not replaying regret, not wishing you could retract something, not repairing unnecessary damage. Let it find you aligned, steady, intentional. Because what you protect tonight may be the very thing that propels you forward tomorrow. There is a battle happening that most people never see. It is not loud. It does not announce itself. It does not shake the ground or darken the sky. It happens quietly, in the space between thought and speech. And that is exactly where you are standing tonight. God is warning you, be careful what you say tonight. A small decision could change everything. Open immediately before midnight. Because the battlefield is not around you, it is within you. Every word begins as a thought, and not every thought deserves a voice. Yet when emotions are high, the distance between thinking and speaking becomes dangerously short. That is where mistakes are born. In that split second when discernment is bypassed and reaction takes over. You must understand something profound. Not every thought that enters your mind originated from you. Some thoughts are reactions to stress. Some are echoes of past wounds. Some are subtle suggestions planted to provoke instability. And if you treat every thought as truth, you will speak things that do not align with your future. Tonight is about slowing down that gap. It is about stretching the space between impulse and expression. Because in that stretched space, wisdom can breathe. In that pause, clarity can rise. In that moment of delay, you give yourself the gift of perspective. There are patterns you have already outgrown. But patterns attempt to resurface when you are under pressure. If you once handled conflict with sharpness, the temptation will return tonight. If you once handled disappointment with self-criticism, that voice may try to speak again. If you once responded to fear with avoidance or harsh declarations, those old reflexes may knock at the door. But growth means you no longer have to answer that knock. You are not who you were. You have matured. You have learned. You have healed more than you give yourself credit for. And this moment before midnight is not here to expose weakness. It is here to reveal progress. The warning itself is proof that you are trusted with awareness. Consider how different outcomes would be in your past if you had paused before speaking. How many misunderstandings could have been prevented? How many relationships could have been preserved? How many regrets could have been avoided? Tonight is offering you a second chance in advance. A chance to choose differently before damage occurs. It is easy to justify reaction when you feel wronged. It is easy to defend yourself when you feel misunderstood. It is easy to sharpen your words when you feel attacked. But strength is not proven by how powerfully you can respond. It is proven by how intentionally you can respond. There is also a spiritual dimension to this. Words are not neutral. They carry vibration. They carry intention. They carry alignment. When you speak fear, you reinforce it internally. When you speak peace, you stabilize yourself. When you speak anger, you intensify it. When you speak patience, you calm your nervous system. You may feel like you are on edge tonight. Slightly more sensitive than usual. Slightly more reactive. That is precisely why awareness is critical. Fatigue, stress, and anticipation can all lower your guard. But awareness raises it again. Some of you are about to enter conversations that matter deeply. Discussions about relationships, finances, future plans, boundaries. These are not casual exchanges. They hold weight. And the tone you choose will shape the direction they take. Tone is often more powerful than content. You can say the right words in the wrong tone and still cause harm. You can express truth without compassion and still create distance. But when truth is paired with calm, doors stay open. This is not about suppressing yourself. It is about channeling yourself wisely. There is a difference between expressing and exploding, between communicating and reacting, between clarifying and accusing. Ask yourself before you speak, what is my goal? Is my goal to win? Or is my goal to build? Is my goal to release emotion? Or is my goal to create resolution? Your goal should guide your language. Midnight represents crossing over. but you do not want to cross over carrying unnecessary friction. The new day deserves a cleaner emotional slate. And sometimes the cleanest slate comes from what you choose not to escalate. You are being invited into mastery, not of others, but of yourself. Self-control is one of the highest forms of strength. It is invisible, yet powerful. Quiet, yet transformative. When you master your mouth, you begin to master your momentum. Think about the ripple effect of restraint. One calm reply can de-escalate an entire argument. One paid tone can prevent days of tension. One thoughtful pause can shift the trajectory of a relationship. Tonight, do not underestimate your ability to redirect outcomes simply by redirecting your speech. The power is not outside of you. It is in your response. The clock continues to move, but you are not racing against it. You are being prepared by it. Each passing minute is another opportunity to choose wisely, to breathe, to reflect, to speak with intention, or to remain silent with dignity. A small decision could change everything, and that decision might be nothing more dramatic than a softened sentence, a delayed reply, or a quiet refusal to engage in negativity. When midnight arrives, let it mark not regret, but maturity. Not tension, but transition. Not chaos, but clarity. Because tonight is not testing you. It is training you. There are moments when destiny does not announce itself with celebration, but with tension. And the tension you feel tonight is not random. It is revealing that something meaningful is at stake. God is warning you, be careful what you say tonight. A small decision could change everything. Open immediately before midnight. Because what feels like an ordinary evening may actually be a spiritual crossroads. Crossroads are deceptive. They do not always look dramatic. Sometimes they appear as simple conversations. Sometimes they look like text messages waiting to be answered. Sometimes they feel like thoughts forming into sentences on your lips. But beneath the surface, pathways are splitting. One direction leads toward peace, growth, and alignment. The other leads toward unnecessary complication. What makes this moment so significant is that you may not immediately see the consequences of your words. The impact might unfold slowly. A strained tone tonight could become emotional distance tomorrow. A sharp reply tonight could become lingering tension next week. A negative declaration tonight could become a mindset that quietly shapes your decisions for months. This is how small decisions change everything, not through sudden collapse, but through gradual shift. You have likely experienced this before. A single misunderstanding that could have been resolved gently instead escalated because of pride. A single assumption spoken out loud that planted seeds of distrust. A single emotional reaction that took far longer to repair than it took to release. And yet, here you are again. Only this time you are being warned before the moment unfolds. That alone is grace. That alone is protection. To be alerted before the damage means you have been given power to avoid it. There is also something important about the emotional undercurrent you may be feeling. Anticipation, sensitivity, perhaps even impatience. When we sense that change is near, our emotions intensify. We become hyper-aware. We interpret words more personally. We react more quickly. But heightened emotion does not always mean heightened clarity. In fact, the louder your feelings become, the more intentional your speech must be. Some of you are standing at the edge of a relational shift. Maybe there has been growth in a connection. Maybe there has been strain that is finally beginning to heal. Maybe there is an opportunity for reconciliation. Tonight could either nurture that fragile progress or disrupt it. Others of you are navigating professional or personal transitions. Conversations about responsibility, vision, expectations. Words spoken in these moments do more than express opinion. They establish reputation. They define how others perceive your stability, your maturity, your leadership. You may not feel like you are being observed closely, but moments like these quietly define you. People remember how you handle pressure. They remember whether you escalate or de-escalate. They remember whether you speak with intention or impulse. And beyond human observation, there is something spiritual taking place. Words release agreement. Agreement releases movement. If you agree with fear, fear gains ground. If you agree with frustration, frustration expands. But if you agree with wisdom, wisdom guides you forward. This is not about pretending everything is perfect. It is about choosing responses that align with the future you are stepping into. The version of you that exists in your next season speaks differently than the version you are leaving behind. Ask yourself honestly, does the person you are becoming respond with sarcasm? Does the person you are becoming react defensively to every misunderstanding? Does the person you are becoming speak in absolutes fueled by temporary emotion? Growth often looks like restraint. It looks like choosing a measured tone when you could easily raise your voice. It looks like clarifying calmly instead of accusing quickly. It looks like pausing long enough to ask, is this worth the cost? Because every word carries cost. Some words cost trust. Some cost peace. Some cost momentum. And some words, carefully chosen, generate trust, build peace, and accelerate momentum. Midnight is approaching. The transition is near. And transitions magnify whatever you carry through them. If you carry agitation into the new day, it will linger. If you carry calm, it will settle into your spirit. If you carry regret, it will echo. But if you carry intentionality, it will stabilize you. You are not powerless in this moment. In fact, you are more empowered than you realize. You have awareness. You have warning. You have the ability to choose your words rather than be ruled by them. Imagine looking back tomorrow and feeling grateful, not because you said everything you wanted to say, but because you said only what needed to be said. Imagine feeling light instead of heavy, confident instead of regretful. A small decision could change everything, and that decision may not feel dramatic. It may be as simple as lowering your tone, as subtle as softening your wording, as quiet as choosing silence when emotion tempts you to react. Tonight is not about suppressing your voice. It is about refining it. It is about proving to yourself that you have grown beyond impulsive reaction. It is about demonstrating that maturity now leads your choices, because what you are stepping into next requires stability, and stability begins with disciplined speech. Midnight will come. A new day will begin. The question is not whether time will move forward. It will. The question is whether you will move forward aligned, peaceful, and free of unnecessary consequence. And that choice is being made right now, in the space between thought and speech. There is something prophetic about the final hour before midnight. It carries a weight that is different from the rest of the day. It is quieter, more reflective, more vulnerable. Thoughts grow louder. Emotions rise to the surface. And in this heightened state, words can slip out with greater force than intended. That is why this warning is so precise. God is warning you, be careful what you say tonight. A small decision could change everything. Open immediately before midnight, because the final hour often determines how the next season begins. Have you ever noticed how many turning points happen late at night? Important conversations, emotional confessions, decisions made when you are tired but honest. There is something about the stillness of night that removes distraction, and exposes what is really inside. But exposure without discipline can lead to unnecessary damage. Tonight is not only about what you say in frustration. It is also about what you declare in vulnerability. When defenses are down, you might say, "I cannot do this anymore." You might confess, "I am not strong enough." You might declare, "Nothing is changing." And while vulnerability is not weakness, agreement with hopelessness is dangerous. The enemy often waits for moments of exhaustion. When your guard is low. When your patience is thin. When your emotions are raw. Because in that state, words flow quickly and filters fade. But you are not unaware tonight. You are alert. You are being reminded before the test unfolds. There is also something sacred about thresholds. Midnight represents crossing over. And whatever you carry across that threshold can set the tone for what follows. If you cross over with bitterness still on your tongue, it lingers. If you cross over with accusation in your heart, it colors your perception. But if you cross over with intention, peace follows. You may feel tempted to resolve everything tonight, to address every tension, to confront every discomfort. But not every issue requires immediate resolution. Some matters benefit from rest. Some conversations are healthier in daylight. Wisdom recognizes timing. Ask yourself, is this conversation necessary right now? Or can it wait? Is my tone aligned with my intention? Or is fatigue shaping my delivery? Sometimes the most mature decision is to delay. Some of you are about to respond to something that triggered you earlier. A message that irritated you. A comment that felt dismissive. A situation that seemed unfair. Your instinct may be to correct it immediately. But immediate does not always mean effective. There is strength in pausing. There is power in choosing to revisit a matter when clarity is higher. When your nervous system is calm. When your thoughts are not racing. This final hour before midnight is sacred ground. Treat it with care. Lower the volume of reaction. Raise the level of reflection. Instead of reacting outwardly, reflect inwardly. Instead of confronting immediately, consider carefully. You may not realize how much protection is embedded in this warning. Some consequences are not obvious until later. A late-night argument can shift the energy of an entire week. A defensive message can plant seeds of distance that take months to undo. But one thoughtful pause can prevent that entire chain of events. There is something even deeper here. The way you handle this hour is shaping your capacity for future responsibility. Greater influence requires greater restraint. Greater blessing requires greater discipline. If you cannot steward your speech in sensitive moments, expanded opportunities become heavier than they should be. You are being refined, not punished, not restricted. Refined. And refinement feels uncomfortable because it requires awareness of impulses you once ignored. Do not overlook this moment. It is training you for something ahead. And hold on, because what you are about to understand next will reveal why this specific midnight carries more significance than you think. The timing is not random. The sensitivity is not accidental. There is a deeper alignment unfolding. Before we move forward, receive this activation. Type "I speak life over my next season" in the comments if this message is confirming something in your spirit. Lesson code 842 is now activated. You'll be grateful you remained attentive, because what is coming next reveals the hidden layer behind this warning. As you prepare to cross this midnight threshold with wisdom, understand that every word spoken here becomes light in someone else's darkness. When you release a super thanks, step into membership, or sow through the PayPal link in the description or the QR code on your screen, you are planting seeds into fertile spiritual ground. God declares that those who sow generously will reap abundantly, and this is not theory. It is living promise. Your giving becomes oil that keeps this prophetic fire burning for souls standing at their own crossroads. I feel this deeply. I am inviting you into divine partnership in this very hour. Do not miss the blessing attached to obedience. Release your seed now and watch heaven multiply it back into your life. There comes a moment when awareness must turn into action. You have been warned. You have been reminded. You have been invited to slow down, to guard your words, to approach this final stretch before midnight with intention. But now the question becomes personal. What will you actually do with this warning? God is saying clearly, be careful what you say tonight. A small decision could change everything. Open immediately before midnight. And now that you know, responsibility rests in your hands. Knowing without a plan changes nothing. You can feel the weight of this message and still choose impulse. You can sense the urgency and still allow emotion to lead. Or you can step into this moment with maturity and make a deliberate shift. Right now, pause and reflect. Is there a conversation you were planning to have tonight? Is there a message you were about to send? Is there a thought forming into words that could escalate instead of resolve? This is the time to evaluate it honestly. Some of you may need to write a message before sending it. Others may need to wait until tomorrow entirely. Some may need to change tone rather than content. And a few may need to release the need to speak at all. Not because your feelings are invalid, but because timing matters. The final hour before midnight is sensitive. Emotions are heightened. Fatigue blurs discernment. And small misunderstandings can become larger than they should be. If you address something tonight, let it be with calm. Let it be with clarity. Let it be with a steady heart. But there is another dimension to this moment. This is not only about avoiding harm. It is about activating blessing. What if instead of speaking frustration, you intentionally speak encouragement? What if instead of revisiting conflict, you express appreciation? What if instead of rehearsing fear, you declare hope? You have the power to shift the atmosphere of your environment with your words. A gentle affirmation can soften tension. A sincere thank you has strengthened connection. A calm explanation can clear confusion. The small decision that changes everything may not be dramatic. It may simply be choosing to respond differently than you would have in the past. And let me speak directly to you. If this message has stirred something in your spirit, if you feel that this warning came at exactly the right time, then take a moment right now to like this video. Share it with someone who may be standing at their own midnight crossroads, and subscribe if you have not already. There are countless people navigating sensitive conversations tonight, unaware that a single sentence could redirect their path. When you engage, you are helping this message reach them before their small decision becomes a lasting consequence. Now, return to the heart of this moment. The clock is moving closer. But do not rush. Rushing is what creates mistakes. Slowing down is what creates mastery. Ask yourself these questions before you speak. Am I reacting or am I responding? Am I trying to win or am I trying to understand? Am I speaking from hurt or from healing? The answers will reveal whether your words will build or break. There is something empowering about restraint. It proves that you are no longer ruled by impulse. It shows that you value long-term peace over short-term emotional release. It demonstrates growth. Some of you have prayed for greater stability in your life, greater favor, greater opportunity. But stability requires discipline. Favor requires maturity. Opportunity requires wisdom. This moment is quietly measuring all three. You might feel tempted to dismiss this as overthinking. To say, is just a conversation. But often it is just a conversation that defines seasons. The tone you set tonight may influence how tomorrow unfolds. The peace you preserve tonight may create clarity in the morning. There is also protection in obedience. When you sense a warning and choose to honor it, you align yourself with safety. You avoid unnecessary friction. You sidestep regret. You move forward without emotional residue. And here is something important. Choosing restraint does not mean your voice does not matter. It means your voice matters enough to use it wisely. It means you recognize that timing and tone amplify or diminish impact. You are not being silenced. You are being strengthened. As midnight approaches, choose to cross that threshold with intentionality. Let your last words of the day reflect who you are becoming. Let your final conversations carry peace. Let your declarations align with hope. And remember this: what you decide in the quiet moments often echoes the loudest later. That is why this hour is sacred. A small decision could change everything. The opportunity to choose wisely is right in front of you. What happens next depends on what you say. There is something you must understand about destiny. It rarely announces itself with flashing signs. More often, it hides inside ordinary moments disguised as routine decisions. That is why tonight feels so simple on the surface, yet so significant underneath. God is warning you, be careful what you say tonight. A small decision could change everything. Open immediately before midnight. Because the path you step onto next may not look dramatic at first, but it will shape more than you expect. You may wake up tomorrow and feel as if nothing visible has changed. The sun will rise. Responsibilities will wait. Conversations will continue. But what you carried through midnight will influence how you step into it. The tone you set tonight becomes the atmosphere you breathe tomorrow. Most people do not lose momentum in one catastrophic moment. They lose it through subtle misalignments. A strained conversation that creates lingering tension. A harsh word that weakens trust. A negative confession that slowly reshapes belief. These are not loud collapses. They are quiet shifts. And quiet shifts, repeated over time, redirect entire seasons. Tonight is about intercepting one of those shifts before it hardens into pattern. Think about the power of trajectory. If you adjust the direction of an arrow by even 1 degree at the beginning, it lands in a completely different place over distance. Words are like that degree of adjustment. They seem small when spoken, but over time, they guide the emotional and relational direction of your life. If you speak encouragement consistently, relationships grow stronger. If you speak criticism carelessly, distance develops. If you speak belief over yourself, confidence expands. If you speak doubt, hesitation multiplies. It is not dramatic at first. It is cumulative. That is why this hour matters. Because tonight might mark the beginning of a new trajectory. A new pattern of discipline. A new way of handling provocation. A new habit of measured response. You have likely noticed growth in yourself already. Situations that once triggered immediate reaction now cause you to pause. Conversations that once escalated quickly now slow down. That is evidence of transformation. But transformation must be protected in moments of pressure. Pressure exposes what still needs strengthening. It reveals whether your growth is situational or stable. And tonight's sensitivity is not here to trip you. It is here to confirm that you are capable of choosing differently. Some of you are on the edge of increased responsibility, greater visibility, broader influence, and with influence comes scrutiny. Words spoken in frustration can carry farther than you intend. Tone used carelessly can echo louder than content. The higher you rise, the more disciplined your speech must become. But this is not about fear of making mistakes. It is about intentional preparation for expansion. There is also a spiritual alignment taking place. When you respond with wisdom under pressure, you demonstrate readiness for more. When you handle conflict calmly, you show maturity. When you choose life-giving words in vulnerable moments, you align with blessing. Midnight represents a dividing line, and dividing lines reveal direction. When the clock turns, you will either carry peace forward or tension forward. You will either carry clarity or confusion. You will either carry restraint or regret. This is your opportunity to choose which one. Some of you may still feel the urge to address something tonight. If you must speak, let your words be anchored in calm. Remove exaggeration. Remove accusation. Remove absolutes. Speak specifically. Speak gently. Speak with the future in mind. Ask yourself, will this sentence still matter next week? Next month? If not, it may not deserve the weight you are about to give it. Others of you may feel stirred internally, tempted to speak defeat over your own situation. But remember, internal declarations are powerful. If you declare that nothing will change, your motivation shifts accordingly. If you declare that growth is possible, your actions begin to reflect that belief. You are not powerless tonight. You are positioned. Positioned to reinforce maturity. Positioned to break patterns. Positioned to set a new tone. And the beautiful thing is this: you do not need a dramatic gesture to create impact. A softened voice, a delayed response, a reframed sentence. These are enough to redirect outcomes. The clock continues its steady movement toward midnight. But you are not being rushed. You are being refined. Each passing minute is another reminder that intention matters. A small decision could change everything. Not because it is loud, but because it is aligned. When the new day begins, let it find you steady. Let it find you composed. Let it find you free from unnecessary emotional residue. Because tonight is not random. It is a quiet preparation for what is coming next. And what is coming next will require the very discipline you choose in this hour. You are standing in the final stretch now. The minutes before midnight are not just ticking away. They are revealing what had been forming inside you all along. God is warning you, be careful what you say tonight. A small decision could change everything. Open immediately before midnight. And now you understand why this is not about fear, but about alignment. This is about stepping into the next day carrying the right atmosphere. The final moments before a shift often feel subtle. There is no dramatic music playing. No visible sign flashing in the sky. Just a quiet awareness. A sense that something meaningful is happening beneath the surface. That awareness is a gift. Because when you are aware, you can act intentionally. Tonight is not just about controlling your speech. It is about confirming your growth. You have been in seasons before where emotion led your response. Where frustration spoke louder than wisdom. Where exhaustion dictated your tone. But this is not that season anymore. Growth is often tested in familiar situations. The same types of conversations. The same types of triggers. The same types of misunderstandings. But the difference now is that you are not the same person responding. You have more awareness, more patience, more understanding of consequence. And tonight is giving you the opportunity to prove that to yourself. Some of you may already feel proud of a decision you made earlier this evening. Perhaps you chose not to engage in an argument. Perhaps you softened your words when you could have sharpened them. Perhaps you waited instead of reacting. Do not dismiss that as small. That is evidence of maturity. That is evidence that transformation is real. Others of you may still be in the middle of tension, a conversation unresolved, a message unsent, a response forming. This is your final reminder. You do not have to rush. Midnight is a transition, not a deadline for emotional expression. Crossing into the next day with calm is more valuable than crossing it having said your piece. There is also something powerful about ending a day in peace. When you allow yourself to step into a new day without regret trailing behind you, your mind rests differently. Your heart feels lighter. Your clarity improves. Imagine waking up tomorrow without replaying something you wish you had not said. Imagine beginning the day without tension lingering from the night before. That peace is worth more than the temporary relief of venting frustration. A small decision could change everything. And sometimes that decision is simply choosing peace over pride. Pride urges you to prove your point. Peace invites you to preserve the relationship. Pride demands to be heard immediately. Peace is willing to wait for the right moment. You are not weak for choosing peace. You are wise. This midnight threshold is symbolic of something larger. It represents stepping from who you were into who you are becoming. And the version of you that is emerging speaks differently, handles conflict differently, navigates tension differently. You are not suppressing yourself. You are refining yourself. There is also a spiritual stability that comes from obedience. When you sense a warning and respond with discipline, you build trust within yourself. You strengthen your own integrity. You prove that you are not ruled by impulse. Integrity is built in unseen moments, in quiet choices, in decisions no one else applauds. But those quiet decisions shape your future more than public ones. The clock is nearing its turning point. And as it does, reflect on this. What atmosphere do you want to carry forward? What tone do you want to set for the next chapter? What emotional residue do you want to leave behind? You cannot control everything that happens around you, but you can control what leaves your mouth. And that control is more powerful than you think. Some of you are stepping into opportunities soon that will require calm communication. Others are entering seasons of reconciliation that require gentle words. Still others are moving toward personal breakthroughs that require positive confession. Tonight is preparation for all of it. When midnight arrives, let it find you steady. Let it find you aligned. Let it find you free from unnecessary regret. Let it mark not just a change in date, but a confirmation of discipline. Because what you protected tonight, whether it was peace, trust, confidence, or connection, will reward you tomorrow. This has not been about restriction. It has been about preservation. It has not been about silence. It has been about strength. You have been given awareness in advance. And awareness is power. As the final seconds approach, breathe deeply. Choose intentionally. Speak gently, or not at all. Carry wisdom across the threshold. Because once midnight passes, the new day begins. And you will enter it either aligned or misaligned. The choice had been yours all along. Midnight is no longer just a time on a clock. It has become a symbol of transition, a sacred dividing line between what was and what will be. God is warning you, be careful what you say tonight. A small decision could change everything. Open immediately before midnight. And now you understand that this was never about fear. It was about preparation. It was about alignment. It was about crossing over with intention instead of impulse. As this message comes to its final moments, take a deep breath and reflect on what has shifted inside you. Perhaps nothing dramatic happened externally. No loud confrontation. no visible event. But something internal has matured. Something subtle yet powerful has settled in your spirit. Awareness has replaced reaction. Intention has replaced impulse. Alone is transformation. You were given a warning before the moment unfolded. That is protection. You were reminded of the power of your words before they left your mouth. That is grace. You were invited to slow down before crossing a threshold. That is wisdom. A small decision could change everything. And maybe your small decision tonight was choosing silence instead of escalation. Maybe it was choosing kindness instead of correction. Maybe it was choosing to delay a conversation until clarity returns. Maybe it was choosing to speak life over yourself instead of rehearsing doubt. Do not underestimate what you just protected. Peace is valuable. Trust is valuable. Confidence is valuable. Momentum is valuable. And sometimes all of them are preserved by a single disciplined response. Midnight represents new beginnings. It represents clean pages and fresh starts. And you are stepping into this new space not burdened by regret, not weighed down by unnecessary tension, but steady and aligned. That alignment matters more than you realize. There will be many nights in your future, many conversations, many opportunities to react or respond. But tonight was a training ground. Tonight strengthened your ability to pause. It sharpened your awareness of consequence. It refined your understanding of timing. And here is the beautiful truth. You are stronger than you were before this message began. Not because you gained new information, but because you applied it. Growth happens when awareness becomes action. As you step forward into what comes next, carry this discipline with you. Let your words continue to reflect the person you are becoming. Let your tone mirror the peace you desire. Let your responses align with the future you are stepping into. You are not meant to live in constant caution. You are meant to live in conscious intention. There is a difference. Caution is driven by fear. Intention is driven by wisdom. And tonight, you chose wisdom. And choice will ripple forward. It will shape how you handle tomorrow's conversations. It will influence how others perceive your stability. It will strengthen your own self-trust. Some of you will see the results quickly. A conversation that remains calm. A misunderstanding that resolves smoothly. A sense of inner peace that follows you into the morning. Others may not see immediate results, but the seed has still been planted. Disciplined speech always produces long-term reward. Remember this: words create atmosphere, and atmosphere influences outcomes. Tonight, you curated your atmosphere carefully. You chose not to allow emotion to dominate it. You chose not to surrender your peace to temporary frustration. That is maturity. And as you close this chapter and step into the next, carry assurance with you. You are guided. You are aware. You are growing. The fact that this message reached you before midnight is not coincidence. It is confirmation that you are being led. Now receive this final activation. Type "I cross into my next season with wisdom" in the comments if you are stepping forward aligned and intentional. Blessing code 919 is now activated. Walk into this new day with confidence. Speak life. Speak calmly. Speak intentionally. And when necessary, embrace silence as strength. The threshold has been crossed, and you crossed it wisely. As you step into this new season with disciplined words and a guarded spirit, understand that this message did not end here. It continues through every soul it reaches. When you release a super thanks, join as a member, or so through the PayPal link in the description or the QR code on your screen. You are not giving to a platform. You are fueling a harvest. God declares that when you sow beside still waters, your seed becomes a river that never runs dry. This is your moment of prophetic partnership. I am inviting you to act not out of obligation, but out of obedience. Let your generosity become oil that keeps this light shining for those standing at their own midnight warning. As you give, may open heavens respond over your life. Sow now, and step boldly into the blessing attached to your faithfulness.